Now, I try not to be self-conscious about my appearance as a trans person. I say I try not to. I am all of the time, right?
I mean, you know, as we as a community,
we tend to be for various reasons, mostly the cis. But I try and carry myself with an air of confidence befitting someone who does, on the whole, like the way they look.
Yeah.
But then things like this weekend happen. Now, I will say, it was a funny enough story that my talking about the event kind of went quasi-viral on Twitter. People did seem to find the story charming. But it did lead me to think a few things in the aftermath. So anyway, I am in Blackpool this weekend. Or this past weekend, I was in Blackpool. During Pride weekend, I was there for Pride of the Ring. The show that I'd been promoting in the run-up, where I would be defending my women's championship, which I successfully did. That was a weird show, because most of the audience was straight. A lot of queers didn't turn up. A stag do was there, and I think they came just to see, like, novelty gays being novelty. So they didn't take to me, because even though I am, like, my character, Commander Sterling, is very novel in their appearance.
You're not stag do flavour novelty gay.
No, like, Priscilla was there. You're
not the flavour of gay they were after.
Exactly. Priscilla was there, drag queen, coming out, doing YMCA, that whole number. She was over a treat. You know, couldn't get enough of Priscilla. But I'm there, even though the character, the gimmick is novel, the transness is not. That's like the most serious part of Commander Sterling. So they didn't get it. And it was bad enough that I was wrestling Harley Hudson and she ran away. And wrestlers don't realise that when I get out the ring and chase them, when I shout, "Don't make me run," that's only half to make the audience laugh. The other half is fucking serious. Don't make me run. But she did. And she's running throughout the audience. It's bad enough that at a Pride show, there's someone there. They were young, but they were old enough to know better, asking me if I'm a boy or a girl. I don't expect to hear that at a fucking Pride event. Like, I do not expect that shit. So that was bad enough. Now, my chronic pain was flaring up. I was having a rough day. Went through the match. It was fine. Weird atmosphere. Went to Funny Girls, which is the drag club around the corner, which I wasn't up for, because, like, there was no fucking seating in there, and I was exhausted, and I was having a bit of an autistic meltdown, and all sorts of stuff. So I step out. I'm out there with two folks who come to the shows regularly. They're fans of the Jimquisition and of Commander Sterling and everything. They're hanging out. I'm there with Mark, my good friend and ring announcer, was out there as well. We're chatting, and this bloke takes umbrage. This bloke clocks me, not happy with it, doesn't like what he sees, comes over, points at the skirt, angry, is like, "What's this?" And all I could think of to do was to look back at him and just look down at the skirt and go, "It's faux leather." He was very confused for the rest of the conversation, in which I laboriously detailed the materials of my outfit. This is 100% cotton. The boots are vegan leather. And he's trying to stop me. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. No. Like, he thought that I didn't know that he was trying to do a hate speech.
Can I just say, I've pulled similar moves in the past, and it takes a confidence of delivery to pull it off, and anytime I hear someone has done it this well that they don't realise you're doing it, chef's kiss, well done, you've nailed it. Like,
some of the assorted queers, like, had started to take a bit of notice, and were mostly just trying not to be part of it. The crowd I was with, fucking loving it. The guy, at one point, like, he manages to get some other words in, he's like, "Look, I know it's Pride, but and just looks at me and says, "It's different, innit?" And I went, "No, it's not different. I wear this every day." And he could not fucking believe that. And he went, "No, you're wrong." And I said, "What do you mean I'm wrong? I can't be wrong about what I wear. How do you know more about it than me?" At this point, he realised that picking a fight with the 6'4" trans, who wasn't backing down, was not going to work out well for him. So he started to back down and apologise. He was like, look, I said the wrong thing. I'm sorry. He was backing off. He was like retreating when he realised that I wasn't going to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry for wearing a skirt. I'll try and do better next time." Like, because I was only getting more animated, more het up. Yeah. And as I realised more eyes were on me, more performative. So, I mean, it was a bold move though. Be in Blackpool during Pride and single out the tallest trans girl outside the fucking drag club and try and start shit with her.
Yeah, there's a moment where like I wonder how long it would have taken for you to be like, "Hey, I just won a professional wrestling match next door. You want to try your luck?"
Oh, that wasn't what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
It was sort of wrestling related. If you're aware of my wrestling career and a particular rival of mine called Nathan Black.
Yes.
But yeah, because I was wearing a dress that was particularly like revealing in the cleavage department. And I was like, if he carries on, the next thing I'm going to do is like point at my tits and go, "Look at the size of them! How the fuck is this fake?" Like that was my next play before he backed down, was a big old "look at the size." But didn't get that far. But like I said at the beginning of this anecdote, I try my best not to be too self-conscious, but he knew it was Pride. He was in Blackpool. He was outside a drag club. And I was the bridge too far. And that has lived in my head rent-free. What was it about me that was too much? Like, I realise I'm very obviously trans. You cover me in cheese, you could call me a derrily clockable. I know that. But I don't think I'm so extremely, like, weird looking that someone could be in Blackpool on Pride weekend, spot me and think, "Oh, I'm not having that."
Trust me, as someone who has been in Brighton on Pride and, like, people will pick the weirdest reasons to be like, "Oh, I'm fine with Pride, but your flavour of Pride, don't like that one. Don't know why." People are fucking weird.
I think Fee was there because Fee had gone to the car at one point. I think they were there by that point. Because they suggested that it was the pockets that you took umbrage with. He couldn't. Now, I feel like they're just trying to make me feel a bit better about my looks, but because I don't think this fella in his beady hat was like, is there fucking pockets on that skirt? I'm not fucking having this. Oi, what's that?
I don't think that's what happened, but also, if I hadn't known before meeting you in person for the first time, if I hadn't heard stories of the fact you somehow found a shop that had deep pockets on skirts, I'd have been fucking baffled at seeing them in person. I'd have been similarly animated in my "what the hell is going on here?"
I could fit a full wallet and phone in one pocket on that skirt as well. Fucking amazing.
Fucking ridiculous.
I expect to be stopped in the street and aggressively interrogated on the depth of my skirt pockets. Absolutely. But I can't work it out. Why aren't I allowed? What did I do that was so different? I don't know.
Someone was having the wrong day, and you can never know what's going on in a person's head.
There's been an uptick of the shit since I ditched wigs as well, so it's kind of coincided with the self-consciousness about my natural hair, like being out and everything. Like I say, I think I'm fairly obviously trans, but I have historically been sort of confused for a cis woman more often than not.
I think your personal sense of that, I think, is skewed by the fact, as is the case for anyone who's living through this bit of stuff going on, you take the moments like that happen personally as Big Knox. It's how it is, but like, you look fucking great. I think you underestimate how much your appearance has changed, like, drastically. You're looking great.
Well, I wasn't fishing for compliments, but, you know, I always keep the hook in the water, so thank you.
I think you might be looking at this from slightly the wrong perspective, too. Like, it's not so much what's different or wrong about you, it's what's different or wrong about them that this is the line.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is it about them that you specifically set them off? Because it is their problem. It's not you. You look great.
Do you think he wanted to bang me? Is that it?
Yes.
Is probably.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, look, half the time it's I'm gonna make you feel shit about your appearance. Do you want to fuck? No one else is gonna want to fuck you. Oh.
I mean, the breasts were boobling a lot that day.
Honestly, the most times I've had that like instance happen, it's been the guy that has then like turned around and tried to be like, "Do you want to fuck in the toilets?" And I'm like, "No, fuck off."
I blame Neil Strauss and the pickup artist movement for all of this. This is just straight negging.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Fee also points out that like I've never done voice training or anything, and so especially if I'm with a crowd being sociable and I'm there bellowing, I don't exactly have the most mask voice, but it isn't. You wouldn't expect it to come out of a cis woman. So that might have also been it. Like, I'm there, like in my dress and skirt and what have you. And then I'm like, anyway, chungus up the arse! That might have had something to do with it.
Hey, you should be allowed to chungus up the arse as much as you like.
No, I think, absolutely. I think it's in the Constitution, is a chungus up the arse.
Indeed.
But that is to say, good weekend. All round, defended. I
mean, you got to keep your belt. It was a good weekend.
Absolutely, defended the title. Picked up a massive amount of bruises because I took a bump on the outside. Sunday was in Manchester. Did Sovereign Pro. Easiest crowd I've ever had to work in front of. They fucking loved my opponent, Tony Wright. Lovely man, but didn't boo me. Normally, I take the heel role, sort of like you've seen me wrestle Priscilla.
Yeah,
like I tend to just sort of take that role. Pure face. They loved us both and they let us know it. That was the easiest match I've ever had to work. It was delightful. Hey. And did lead to my first singles loss in over a year. But I'm not mad about it because Tony Wright is the nicest man I've ever wrestled as well. Couldn't have happened to a nicer fella. So anyway, that was my weekend. It was a funny story though. The faux leather thing. And yeah, like, I think the reason people really liked it when I tweeted about it was because, like you said, it's always nice to masterfully confuse them.
Right.
And yeah, like, it's a really good way of shutting down phobes, is to just baffle them.
Indeed.
Yeah. So yeah, that was that. Also, there was shit.
It was shit.
Oh, mate. There was a drain next to the drag club. Must have exploded or something. The water coming out of it was grey and it turned the entire sidewalk grey. An entire corner of a crosswalk. One of the traffic lights, one of the corner traffic lights was unusable because it was just a grey lake. And then Fee noticed there's bits of toilet paper in here. Oh, wait, no, that's just an actual human shit. And they grabbed an old lady. An old lady walked past us and Fee just, like, grabbed them and went, no! To stop her walking in shit. The lady was very confused. And Fee was like, I've got a couple seconds to explain this before she decks me. They were grateful in the end, the lady and the man. But yeah, Fee heroically saved an old lady's feet from shit. So
nice.
It was an eventful weekend, is what I'm saying.
It sounds like it. And
plus, I got a sticker up with big tits written on it.
Nice. Uh-huh. Right. I'm going to do the thing I'm contractually obligated to do. It's Podquisition. We're here. We're going to get it in at the 15-minute mark. Get it in there.
That's what that bloke was trying to do, I think, and his negging backfired.
I want to talk about a video game I played this week.
Do ya?
I am eager to talk about this video game. I'm excited to talk about this video game.
Okay.
I've brought an audio-related prop to talk about this video game this week, which I'm going to click a button and then have to wait real-world time for something to happen. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but let's find out. I'm going to have to vamp until it starts happening. The game I've been playing is a game called Choo Survivor.
What?
It's called Choo Survivor.
This could go any which way.
It is a vampire survivor, but trains.
So it's Laura's favourite game, The Game.
Okay, so I'm gonna spend some time enthusing about why I love this before I get to the problems that currently exist. The game is not out fully for like 2 weeks. There is a demo that's up on Steam at the moment. The prop I have with me, I will explain very briefly because I'm excitedly waiting for it to pop off. Actually, having a look, it's going to be like 3 minutes before it pops off. It's going to happen randomly while I'm talking about this game at some point.
Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm just looking that up. This is a fascinating thing.
Yeah, so for anyone who's not looked at it, Choo Survivor is a Vampire Survivors game where you are on a linear track.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is the big difference, obviously, is that you are on a straight line, which means that you can't do the usual Survivors thing of, like, trying to back away from enemies, letting your auto-attacks happen as you go. Each train that you have access to has one weapon that is its default starting weapon that seems to be specific to that unique train. Unlike other Survivors games, you know how most Survivors games will have, like, the attack pattern for this weapon?
Yeah.
And each weapon has a specific attack pattern. The way that this works is that each weapon can be set to one of 4 different attack patterns. It can be set to automatically attack the nearest enemy in a random direction, in a sort of circular sort of radius of shots, but it takes longer to charge up, or wherever your mouse currently happens to be pointing, so you have control over it. And you can set each of your weapons you have in your loadout to different setups on that. It is not, at least with the demo, it is not as content-rich as, say, like, don't go into this expecting Vampire Survivors, Bone Razor Minions levels of content. Oh, here we go.
The next train to depart from platform 18 will be the 1424 Southern Service to Eastbourne. Calling at Clapham Junction, East Croydon, Gatwick Airport, Haywards Heath, Wivelsfield, Cooksbridge, Lewis, Holgate, Hampden Park, and Eastbourne. This train is formed of 8 coaches. Platform 18 for the 1424 Southern Service to Eastbourne.
Yeah!
That's a real-time train update happening in my office. I've turned the sound back off now. I have a little train board that sits in my office that I can set it.
Of course you do.
To tell it... This is a thing I treated myself to because the Accessibility Summer Showcase went really well, and I was like, yay, I did a thing, I'm going to treat myself. It's just a little train board, and you can tell it like a real-world train station, and it'll have like the little notice board of what trains are coming in, and oh, that one's been delayed, this one's going where. And I can set it to have the real train announcer voice going, so I just occasionally get a little like, oh, that was a train arriving in real time at London Victoria as we recorded the podcast. I've had this going while I've been playing the train Vampire Survivors game. It's been fucking great.
You are so fucking adorable.
That
is so adorable. I love it.
So yeah, for a Vampire Survivors, like the thing about Choo Survivors that like, I'll preface up front. The balance of pacing in unlocking stuff in this game seems a little not there. I played maybe 2, maybe 3 runs of this and got enough like of the permanent between runs currency to buy basically every upgrade available in the demo. And it really feels like the feeling I have, because a lot of the stuff from the full game is like visible on the unlocks list, just you can't access it because demo. So you can get a sense of like how much content it looks like there's going to be at launch. It looks like maybe 5 trains, 3 maps, and I imagine within 3 or 4 hours of play of the full game, I'm guessing I'm probably going to have everything unlocked. That's not to say that like I'm not going to pick it up. Of course I am. It's a train-based Vampire Survivors. It's fucking great. But it's going to be... I get the feeling it's probably going to be in the camp of stuff like the Renfield Nicolas Cage vampire movie, Vampire Survivors tie-in that I talked about a couple of months ago, in that despite not having a huge amount of content, it seems, at least at launch, it's doing something unique mechanically that definitely is going to fit into that rotation of, I feel like playing a Survivors that isn't just Vampire Survivors again. What do I have to duck into a couple of runs of? And as I said, there is stuff in this I really like. I like the weapons, like you can change the attack patterns on weapons on a per weapon basis, like they don't necessarily have to be a static pattern. I like the fact that you don't automatically pick up experience, you have to sort of mouse over it as your train's doing its journey to sort of pick it up. You're managing not just health, but also a fuel meter. And instead of leveling up your weapons, you can, like, let's say you haven't found fuel in the level and moused over it to sort of bring it over to your train. You can spend currency you would for level ups on health or fuel for the train, but those are kind of expensive to do. It's got a lot of its own ideas, and, like, if this game's developer takes it seriously and keeps adding stuff to it post-launch, I could see myself really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right now, the problem is, I feel like the amount of content, and this is maybe like an unfair expectation to have, but there's been a lot of Vampire Survivors games that for a low price have had a ridiculous amount of content in them. And this is not in that pile right now.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it's doing something unique, and I'm not going to lie, the fact that it's about trains is 100% enough that I will just keep playing this.
How invested do you feel in it with it being on a linear track? Like, because what are you doing?
Yeah, I should have gotten to this. So, instead of, you know how in most Survivors games you're trying to survive for X amount of time?
Mm-hmm.
In this, you are trying to get to the end of a linear track. Like, you have a destination you are trying to get to alive. And part of the balancing act there is not getting overwhelmed and sticking around too long to try and pick up resources and stuff to build up your train, versus, like, building a build that will allow you to plow through stuff. Like, enemies will, like, physically get on the track and stop you moving. And having a build that can targeted clear space off the track so you can get moving when you want to. Honestly, my big question is how... There's only one level available in the demo. I'm curious what they will do with the other levels. Like, one of my big questions is, will we see things like branching tracks, perhaps, where you mouse over a lever to pick which split in a branching train track you go down? I can see things like that of how you could vary this format. If all of them are a straight line with just slightly different aesthetics going on, that's going to definitely limit how much replayability this feels like it has. Right now, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I like the core format. I like the experience that's there. All I know from having looked at footage of, like, the full, teasing the full release, is, like, there are some elaborate weapons, like, cool, my train could have an orbital laser cannon, that's interesting. You haven't shown me, like, fundamentally, like, other levels with enemies that behave fundamentally differently, or where I am doing something fundamentally different on the train track.
Right.
And those are, like, big questions that are, hovering, and the game's out in, like, I think a week and a half, 2 weeks. I will report back once I've played more of it. Core idea is good. I'm worried there's not gonna be much to it.
Yeah.
But that's probably not gonna stop me turning on my little train announcements board and hearing about trains while I make a train shoot zombies with a machine gun.
Interesting. I might have to check that out. The concept is interesting, but it does run the risk of being one of them games where they had the idea, and it should have stayed an idea, because it's like, this is a cute idea, and then they've got nothing to really do beyond it.
I 100% recognise that how I'm feeling about it is very much coloured by, but there's a train there, though. And I know that, like, I can objectively go, it's concerning me that there might not be more to it that would let me recommend it more readily to other people.
But conceptually, I love the idea, right?
Right. I like the idea of a Survivors game where you cannot just backtrack away to give yourself space from enemies.
Yeah.
And you have to build your build differently as a result and have to play more aggressively to plow directly forward through crowds rather than back away and keep the shots going while they can't catch up with you.
Mm.
And I hope that hope that they find ideas to do with that. What about you both? You played anything this week?
I'm just going to say up front, I only played one game this week that's worth discussing at all. I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet, so there's that.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I also watched basically nothing related to Summer Games Fest.
You really didn't miss much, other than the Accessibility Summer Showcase, which Eurogamer describes as a vital addition to the Summer Games Fest lineup.
Well fucking done,
Yes.
by the way. Like, I was so pleased when I saw, like, the coverage on Eurogamer and places like that, where I'm like, this is fucking legit. You did well.
I'm not to toot my own horn. I'm really proud of how well it was received. Particularly, like, I've had some really lovely emails from people who were like, "Hey, I have this disability, and I found like 3 games that I can actually play that look really cool thanks to your showcase." I've had emails from people going, "Thank you for just making a version I can engage with of the showcase, so I could, feel included in the excitement." It did the thing I wanted it to do, and I'm glad that, like, overwhelmingly the response has been really positive. So I did a thing. Yay.
Yep, you sure did.
I sure did. You didn't miss much by skipping Summer Games Fest.
That's the vibe I'm getting from people. Like, there are things that I have heard about that I have vague interest in. But on the whole, yeah.
I picked up a pile of, like, interesting demos to check out. Like, I played a bunch of little demos for interesting things as a result of it.
And that's what I'm looking forward to hearing about from both of you today, because even the Devolver Showcase was fine. I watched that. I did watch that a day late, because that's how, like, not paying attention to any of this shit that I've been.
I'll say this. If you want the Devolver Showcase to seem infinitely more impressive than it does in isolation, if you were to force yourself to watch the 2-hour-long PC gaming show this year, which tried to do the same gimmick, but very poorly stretched it over 2 hours, while also in the middle genuinely having a game that is telling its narrative through AI generation, in the middle of a 2-hour showcase making jokes about how bad AI is at telling stories and writing text, it makes you appreciate the Devolver one infinitely more.
Well, I guess blatant.
You might have just sold me on watching the PC one, though. That sounds like an amazing disaster.
The PC one is fucking painful, and genuinely I think you'd have a good time just skipping to the painful skits.
Right, but it's a very different form of comedy, right? That's that awkward cringe comedy that all the kids love. The PC gaming showcase, they might have been the ones to really nail it. Like the Devolver one, that's sort of steeped in that Gen X, ironic cynicism, detached sort of thing. PC gaming showcase, I'm in. I'm gonna watch that.
Okay. I want to give you, like, the proper context of, like, I think that the best way for you to both experience the PC gaming show is for me to tell you how it ends, because I think knowing how it ends is going to make it all the more beautifully painful to watch. So the gimmick is Frankie, who is one of the 2 hosts usually, Day 9 decides he doesn't want her co-hosting because AI is cool now. So she gets kidnapped by some people with German accents in suits and replaced with an AI version of her face. And you spend 2 hours watching skits about, like, how unfunny this AI is and how bad the AI is at being a co-host. Very, like, the joke is, oh, we tried to get the AI to write the skit and it wasn't very good. Oh, AI. And the punchline is Frankie comes back and unplugs the AI, and they have a conversation about, oh, that AI was shit. Would have been much better if we'd actually had you here co-hosting, Frankie. Guess we just had a 2-hour shit show, because you weren't here. Like, the whole end point is, wouldn't the show have been better if we didn't do the whole conceit of this skit? Hasn't this been bad to watch for 2 hours? Oh, well.
Did Tim Heidecker write this? This is amazing.
Right? And this is why I think you need to know that ending going in. Because every time they're making, like, a joke about how shit AI is, they want you at the end to believe that it's deliberately shit. That was deliberate so that the punchline could be, oh, that was shit, but we knew it. She's back now. Oh, It's...
I'm not going to watch the whole 2 hours, but I'm pretty sure like there'll be a highlights thing or something now.
Pull up the 2-hour video, skim through the trailers. Don't worry about the trailers, just any time that they're in the CGI fake studio. That can't be that long, and it's bad.
Amazing.
It's fascinating.
So, Steph, what have you played?
Oh, yeah. Now, I know Laura and I have played a couple of similar things. So I'll get the one that only I did this week out. Then we can talk about, like, you know, the ones people want to hear about, like Final Fantasy XVI and all of that. But I played Street Fighter VI.
Yeah.
A revelation. A genuine revelation.
You digging it?
Genuinely.
I'm so glad to have been right that you might be enjoying it.
Oh yeah. I'm going to be doing a review of it, which I've never reviewed a fighting game in my life. Obviously we're not counting Smash Brothers because it is a fighting game, but it occupies a very particular niche.
Yeah, like very specifically back when you used to, like, first were doing written reviews on the Jimquisition, you commissioned me to review, I think it was Street Fighter 4, because you were like, nah, I'm not going to review fighting games.
Indeed, yes, you reviewed, I believe that was the one, Street Fighter 4, or 5. It was that, there was a couple of others as well, but yeah, like, I wanted some fighting game reviews, didn't do them, because I can't play them. Outside of Smash, the fighting games I have any experience with are Eternal Champions, Primal Rage, and Rise of the Bloody Robots. Those are the ones I played. I have tried to play others. I can't do it. I've always felt very sort of envious because I like all the characters and I like how excited people get for those games. But I've got a memory disorder. I can't remember the combos and I do not have great finger dexterity. I can't pull them off, even if I could remember them. Like it's just a confluence of things. Fighting games as they've existed are impenetrable to me, completely inaccessible. But the modern controls on Street Fighter VI,
fucking great, right?
Amazing. Important is the word I would use. Genuinely important.
Genuinely, I think it is like the biggest step that I've seen any fighting games, like long-running fighting game series, take towards being more accessible. It genuinely reduces that barrier to entry so well for both cognitive and motor disabilities.
Absolutely. And it's a game that really like carries that accessibility throughout its entire attitude to the way it handles the player. The World Tour mode, where you create your own character and take part in something I've basically described as a cross between Splatoon and Yakuza. Like, the open world, like, the little open city thing, stylistically is like the hub city in Splatoon, but is full of, like, constant fighting and eccentric quests like Yakuza. So it's basically Splakuza, is what I've been calling it. Someone pointed out, because I was streaming it last night, which, again, mind-blowing, that I can live stream a fighting game.
You'd want to play a fighting game on stream.
Live streaming fucking Street Fighter. When I say revelation, like, I'm not overblowing it or being sarcastic or anything. This is mind-blowing. I was a little overwhelmed when I played for the first time and won a round against the computer. I was like, I just beat a Street Fighter. I just did a winning.
The thing is like you not having to think about and try to do those executions of those super moves. It particularly for like a new fighting game like this, where it's like it's got its own mechanics it wants to teach you that haven't been in past Street Fighters. There's room mentally to think about those things it's trying to teach you, because you're not going, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be doing my meters and my triggers, but like I'm still trying to get a Hadoken to come out.
Yeah. Like, what it does, because people, you know, elitists would always answer any accessibility request with get good. But by taking away the stuff that requires you to have inherent traits to your mind and body, It allows you to concentrate on the stuff that you can actually get good at. The tactical side of the fighting.
Exactly.
Knowing how the systems work and how best to use them. Nailing your timing. When do I use this thing? By stripping away the brain space that's being used to try and remember and subsequently panic about the combos and all of this shit. Like, you can actually get good now. Because the stuff that you can't get good at because it's an inherent physical or mental trait that you might not have been fucking born with, you don't have to worry about that now. That is fucking important.
Right. My first experience with this game I think it was last summer, was at Capcom's offices playing against someone who had been playing a lot of this game already because they'd been, like, doing showcases of it for press stuff and, like, having to understand it enough to teach it to people they were going up against. Regular good level Street Fighter player using, like, the regular combo-driven controls. I kept pace with them. I was keeping pace with someone who plays lots of fighting games and is good at doing combos. And I was like, oh yeah, I can just breathe enough to, like, oh, they're trying to do that thing. I'll stop them. Yeah. I could think about that and do it.
I think it becomes
magic.
A far more genuine test of actual skill. Because you'll have people saying, well, of course you kept pace, you were using baby controls. It's like, no. Because first of all, like, there are pro-level players who are using modern controls for certain characters, just because it suits the character better. And second of all, it's balanced with those sort of limitations in control that you have, which I don't feel, because I wouldn't be able to play the game on classic controls anyway. So any restrictions that might be hitting me with modern, I don't care. I don't fucking care. They don't affect me. What matters to me is I can play the game.
Yeah. It's been fucking wild watching people get salty about losing to modern control players, because so many of them are so unwilling to mentally admit that once you take, like, reaction speed and ability to memorize shit out of the equation, their strategizing isn't that much better than the average player.
I mean,
there are people posting online going, like, oh, well, modern control players are only winning because, like, they have a much tighter window to hit them on perfect parries. Like, you can't get them on perfect parries because the window's smaller. It's like, no, it's not smaller. You're just trying to find an excuse for why you're not winning as many matches, because
what they need to do is get good.
What they need to do is get good. Because they're like, they're getting more invincibility frames if they play with modern control. No, they're not.
Like, you're
just fucking salty. You're just salty.
Yeah, like, you're salty. Maybe a bit of a hang on, I've got a handbook for this. There being a scrub. I believe that's the word.
Scrub.
Like, I'm doing a Jimquisition on this on Monday, just talking about how important that is, and I'm going to have to find some of the saltiness, because honestly, what these people are learning now is, like you said, maybe they're not as hot shit as they thought they were, now that it's about strategy.
I can point you to some links. I've been collecting some saltiness together because I am also working on a video about Street Fighter 6. I can send you some salt.
Yeah, I would very much appreciate that.
No worries.
Because, like, this is so important to me as someone who I don't want to be, like, competitive. I mostly am playing the World Tour mode, or just playing against the computer as Marissa over and over again, because of course I'm playing as Marissa. She's awesome. So awesome that I'm actually starting to steal her moves for Commander Sterling. For, like, my actual wrestling, because she does that thing where she grabs someone's arm, twists it behind their back while she drives her elbow into their back and bends them over and then clobbers them in the back of the head. I was trying to learn to do that a couple of weeks ago when I only had a GIF to go off. But now that I can actually see it on TV, like, in the full game, like, Phoenix and I have been studying it, like, how best to do it. Plus, when I was streaming, I got a little side quest in World Tour mode where I had to get her to help her choose between two suitors who want to marry her, and she chose both. So she's confirmed Polly. So, like, she just gets cooler. But yeah, Marissa, I'm upset that Vega isn't in it, because Vega has always been, like, my favourite character from Street Fighter. But Marissa is awesome. Easily, like, my main, because she's so good.
And, like, the thing is, I recognise on paper that, like, at the top end of competitive, in most cases, modern controls are not going to be the optimal choice. There's a couple of little things that you might not have access to. You'll have slightly fewer options. Like, I understand that. I don't fucking care. I was never going to get there regardless. What I want to be able to do is play against people who know what they're doing playing Street Fighter and go, cool, I want to have fun. I want to play the story mode and have fun. Yeah. I want to hop on with random people and be able to hold my own and go, I at least understand what I'm doing. You know, I might still lose, but at least it wasn't because my hands wouldn't do what I wanted them to do. Yeah. I want to just have fun with it.
It's a choice between a control scheme where you won't be able to do everything, or a control scheme where you won't be able to do anything. I wouldn't be able to play the game at all with classic controls. So I don't mind that I might not have exact nuance and a full suite of options with modern. It doesn't matter. What matters is, like you say, I can play it and just have fun. And I won an online match.
Hell yeah.
I lost all the others, but I won one! And that is good enough. And I did sort of keep pace with one of the other matches.
That's the thing, is it's like starting to get that, like, to go, I might be losing, but I feel like I could learn enough to be losing less.
I feel like I could get good.
Yeah.
And that's, I think what this game is so savvy at is understanding that you don't encourage people to get good by making your game incomprehensible and telling them to figure it out. It was pointed out to me when I was live streaming that some of the mini games in World Tour were very surreptitiously teaching you classic controls in mini game form. There's like a mini game where you're like eating pizza or something and it's doing little combos, but they're like classic control scheme combos put in little bite-sized chunks in very brief sequences to just drill it into you. So that even if you're doing modern controls, you're very passively picking up. I don't think I'll ever pick it up to where I could do it because, like I say, I've got a literal disorder that will stop me from doing it.
But it never forces you to.
No.
Yeah.
And the game is still giving it an honest... What it's doing is the difference between an old school wrestling trainer who thinks that putting you in a legitimate shoot hold and hurting you is an adequate form of training versus the trainer I have at PPW, Liam Slater, who has never forced me to do anything, has never demanded me or shamed me, has simply encouraged me to believe I could do it, has given me a judgment-free, safe time in the ring to learn at my own pace in a style that is suited to how I learn. And there are many old school wrestling trainers that would look at what Liam does and say is too soft or not making wrestlers the right way. And that anyone who wants to be a wrestler should get good and suffer. But some of the best wrestlers in the country are coming out of PPW. Leon Slater being one of them. The guys we have at Spectrum, Jay Vertigo, The Freak Show, Gentleman Jim. That's the difference to draw from like my experience as a wrestler. The fighting games that elitists think all of those games should be is the kind of wrestling trainer who calls their school a dungeon and legitimately puts kids in figure 4 leg locks to toughen them up and consequently drive away and make sure that people never come back who might have become excellent wrestlers if they were taught with a degree of humanity. Versus Street Fighter VI is Liam Slater teaching me to wrestle. And I love it. I love that.
Yeah. Also, one thing that like can't be understated that is really nice about modern mode is that, and this is not like 100% the case, but it's close enough that I think it's worth talking about. Basically, every character fundamentally controls the same. In that Smash Brothers way, you don't have to learn fundamentally different inputs for most characters.
Yeah.
Meaning that you can jump back and forth trying to find characters that work for you without going, cool, if I want to learn this new character, I've got to learn that whole combo list before I can start playing around with them competently to see how they play. Like, you can jump into a character, and most of the controls will be close enough to the same that you can competently work out what their deal is. And that is so refreshing for being able to actually experiment properly with a roster.
Mm-hmm. And I like that, like, on a skeletal level, they control the same. But to keep them unique, the way they use that skeleton can be a bit different. So, you have, like, Chun-Li able to, like, perform some extra moves by going into that little stance. Or Marissa doing that block guard thing that can then be, once you do moves from the block guard, you have a whole new chain of special attacks that are different from the regular special attacks. Like, just these little twists that make sure that each character does play differently from a tactical standpoint.
But not from a mechanical one.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Really well done. It is a game that is constantly encouraging the player to keep playing. And that... I talk sometimes about games that I describe as games that want to be played, which sounds a little redundant because obviously all games ideally would want you to play them. But there are some games that just drip this attitude of, we want you to enjoy us constantly.
I mean, specifically, it's games that want you to enjoy them.
Yes.
Like, fighting games as a genre have for a long time had a problem of getting more and more niche and insular and very specifically targeted at being more and more laser targeted on the specific audience that is already invested.
Yes.
And it is nice to play a fighting game that, be it for recognizing that they're, laser focusing in on a niche of a niche more and more, or, whatever brought them to there, going, we want not just them. We don't just want them to play. We want you to play.
Exactly.
And to have fun playing.
And again, to bring it back to pro wrestling, you can have the attitude of certain old school wrestlers. You can be a Scott Garland, and you can say, I'm above this kind of wrestling. I only want proper, real, serious wrestling that appeals to established, existing wrestling fans. That's not how you're going to grow wrestling's audience, is it? When I debut in a new city, I bring new fans to a wrestling show. People who aren't wrestling fans, and they leave as wrestling fans. Because it's something different, it's something new, it's something welcoming. Outside of the insular wrestling crowd that is just going to watch wrestling anyway. If you're already appealing to them, and only them, you're not growing your audience. Street Fighter 6 is growing its audience because it's not just appealing to the people who are going to buy it anyway. And that, again, is so important. It's just a shame that the game is monetized to fuck.
Yeah.
That it just tackily, tastelessly so. Because as a game, I have just been loving it. Loving it.
Nice. I'm gonna rattle through a couple of demos I played this week. I'm not gonna spend long on any of them, but these are things that are maybe worth checking out if they fit your niche. So I played a demo for Ollie Frog, Toad Skater.
Okay.
This is everything I really wanted Skatebird to be. You play a little round, colourful frog on a skateboard doing skateboarding games.
I mean, it's a frog. It's already better.
It's a little frog. The best way I can put this is my experience personally with Skatebird was that I felt like that game mechanically wanted to be punishing me and telling me to get better at skateboarding in a way that just didn't feel like it clicked. I did not want that sort of cute aesthetic with game that was being like, get better, why aren't you better at this? It was a little janky, it just didn't click. Ollie Frog, Toad Skater, it feels much more in line with like an arcade skateboarding game. It wants you to be getting big numbers and numbers go up, and it wants to be kind of forgiving on things. It leans a little more in your favour so that you can have fun being the cute little round frog on a skateboard. I am excited to check this out when it actually releases, because it's what I wanted too experienced with Skatebird, is how it's currently feeling. I also played another train game this week, because of course I did, that's how my week's been going. I played a demo for a game called Station to Station, which is a game about connecting different buildings together via train tracks to transport goods and products between them. You have a limited budget for making lengths of train track. You're trying to get, say, milk and flour to a place that will make them into bread, and then maybe take the bread somewhere else because the bread's going to be made into pizza or something, and trying to create an interconnected network of train tracks that will take everything where it needs to go. The sort of puzzle element to it is that not only are you trying to work out how to lay out your tracks to avoid doubling back on yourself unnecessarily when delivering things back and forth, you're trying to have a sort of efficient system. You also have these sort of cards active to you that will allow you to make, for example, the next train track you make is half price. And if you know you've got a particularly big section of track coming up, like working out when's the right time to use those, successfully connecting up the things you need to connect up gets you some money back. More buildings will sort of get added to the map as you go. There's a finite end to the level. You are trying to be economical enough with your train station setting up that you get to the end and have connected all the buildings for this particular map without running out of money in the process. It's a fun little puzzle. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been nice to play around with. The one I want to talk about most, and the one that I'm most excited for the actual game, I think it comes out end of this month, maybe next month, is Venba, which is a game that's trailers have been floating around for a couple of years for this. It is a game about cooking food as a way to keep cultural connections alive. It's got a beautiful art style, absolutely gorgeous, colourful 2D art. It is a story about a couple who are living in Canada, considering moving back to India because their, money's not doing great at the time. They find out they're having a kid and they decide, hey, we're going to try and make it work and stay in Canada. And about the mother of this family trying to keep cultural ties to her family through cooking and through doing recipes from a hand-me-down family recipe book that is a little water damaged, a little torn up, and having to sort of have recipes with a little bit of something missing and experiment around in a kitchen and work out how to make these dishes without complete information as a way of keeping cultural connection alive. The example in the demo was that I was trying to make these sort of almost like steamed dumpling things, and the person hadn't used this particular steaming device before and had to work out the reason that it asks for a towel in the recipe book is because you've got to put it on this thing, otherwise the mix will drip through the holes, and you've got to rotate the layers so that the steam will be able to rise up and cook everything evenly. And it's just a really beautiful story, absolutely gorgeous music, very nicely written, using little mini games about working out how to make food to tell a story about family. Its demo was really short and very powerful, and I cannot wait for this game to come out. It seems really up my alley. So yeah, there's a couple of things I played demos for this week. Steph, what do you want to talk about, playing-wise?
So there are other demos that you've played, I know that, because I played them too. So we could do those, I suppose.
Yeah, where do you want to start?
Let's start with Lies of P, why not?
Lies of Pinocchio.
Lies of Pinocchio. So there's this game, Lies of P. I believe we responded to it in real time on an episode of Podquisition once.
We did.
I learned about it at the end of a show once and was freaking out at what looked to be Bloodborne with Pinocchio, which is what it is.
I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah, shamelessly so. This game is so Bloodborne. It's not trying to be anything else.
Bloodborne didn't have, robotic British police officers wandering around, but other than that, this is just Bloodborne.
Other than that, yeah. So, you're Pinocchio, a real boy, looks like a real boy, but is a puppet. They call them puppets, they're just robots. They're steampunky robots, and they've all gone a bit wrong, and so they're all just bashing people up. And you fight them, and that's it. It's Bloodborne, but with quaint British Bobby robots.
And you know what? it plays pretty darn well.
It's all right. It's all right. I've not disliked it.
It's one of the better feeling, Souls knockoffs I've played in a while. Like it plays well.
For the most part, yeah. I don't like the dodge. It feels so inefficient. It just doesn't feel. I don't feel like I can rely on it to get me out of any trouble at all.
I feel like the thing that I've not been gelling with the dodge is I feel like I have less ability to dodge forward through an attack, which is always how I play Souls games. It feels like it wants you to be using it as already be at a little bit of a distance and then use it to give your extra distance backwards. It doesn't feel like it wants to give you iframes to dodge through.
Yeah, I haven't gotten along with the dodge, which is a shame. I think it wants to force you to use the parrying all the time, which the reason I gave up on Sekiro was I'm not a parrier.
I'm getting there with the dodge, but I had to acclimatize myself. I couldn't use the dodge the way that I assumed from genre conventions I'd be using it.
Yeah. So I'll need to give it another go. I've not disliked it. I've found the premise is stupid, and I'm on the line. Fee's already decided they hate it. I'm on the line between loving and hating the edgy. Oh, we're doing our own edgy reimagining of a fairy tale thing, which I always put it down to being like, what if Vikings but Ragnarok wasn't like the end of the world, but it was like a corporation and it was called like Ragnarok Limited or something? Like, how contemporary is that? The bit that made me want to just fucking like shoot myself while also giving a golf clap was, I was like, why are they pronouncing Gemini? That's weird. It's spelled Gemini because somehow I'd managed to forget, like, one of the most famous aspects of the Pinocchio story. So I'm there like, why are they pronouncing Gemini weird? Yeah, and then later on in the game, they start talking about what type of machine the talking lamp is. Oh, it's a cricket model. It's Gemini Cricket. I wanted to die and live forever at the same time.
Mechanically, a thing I like about this, and it's, I think, the thing that differentiates it most, maybe, from just talking about Bloodborne, I like that when you die, you don't drop all of your souls. You drop maybe a third of them, which is nice, because what you can do, and I did in at least one situation, was, oops, forgot to go cash in my souls, or whatever the equivalent was here. I've still got 2/3 of them. I can buy a level up with what I have left that I forgot to spend the first time I was here, and not be risking all of them while I go and try and get those souls back. I can spend a level up's worth and have that safely banked away while I go and get the third I dropped. I like that it's still punishing, but it's not quite as punishing as it usually is, and I appreciate that little bit of softening.
Yeah. What do you reckon the whale's gonna be? An airship?
Probably.
What about the bloke that turns kids into donkeys? That's the one that I keep getting stuck on. Who's the one? Or is he going to be like a Dr. Robotnik type of character, like putting kids in robots or something?
Oh, he's going to hit you with like a blast, and if you get hit by it, like, you're not going to be able to attack for a bit. You're going to be on all fours running around, not able to attack. You're going to be in donkey mode.
Such an original, inventive, edgy adaptation.
Right.
I can't wait.
Right.
I can't wait.
It's tacky, and I'm kind of loving it.
That's the thing. I am so angry at it, while also slightly impressed at the sheer fucking audacity of some of this. But as a game, I have been enjoying it. I do enjoy it. I like the visual style. Well, of course I do. I liked Bloodborne's. But I do like the design of the robots and everything, like the weird sort of creepy Victorian fairground kind of attraction aesthetic that everything has. I'm into that.
It's promising.
Yeah. I will definitely be checking it out when the full game's out.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy XVI is the other demo. Now, that demo paints the impression of a game that is shamelessly, disgustingly, and tackily indulging in sex, violence, and liberal use of the F word. And I'm in favour.
I'm going to be honest, very little of that demo I took in properly because I was having one train of thought and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And it's the main reason I checked out the demo was... You remember a while ago we talked about the way that game was handling certain accessibility options being tied to character equipable rings.
Yeah.
That were going to take up equipment slots. I was like, I want to give this a go because this demo was like the first 2 hours of the game. I want to see in context what's going on here. And you know what infuriated me at the start and I couldn't let go? When the game is explaining, like, oh, you can open the settings menu like this, one of the things it does is tells you, hey, the settings, including accessibility settings, are in the menus. Now, there's not a menu setting called accessibility settings, but there is some useful stuff in there, like speaker name tags, being able to have subtitles for stuff that isn't, spoken dialogue, stuff that is accessibility settings, and I'm glad it's there. But the fact they were there, and the acknowledgement of, like, the word accessibility settings coming from the game's tutorial infuriated me. Because I was like, so you are aware that accessibility is an important thing that, is important to have. You just don't consider cognitive and motor disabilities as disabilities. They're things to get good and get over. Other kinds of disabilities get to be settings and get to be accessibility. And it annoys me. And the people who were like, oh no, it's these things were never meant to be accessibility. They're fucking accessibility settings. I've played around with them now. They're fucking accessibility settings. I'm
absolutely
grumbly at this goddamn game. Anyway, I did get to fight a big Balrog thing with a phoenix firing flames at it. That happened.
Yeah.
I shot lots of fireballs. It was very dramatic.
I liked the demo. I'm not sure why they were worried about it being unrealistic to have anything other than white people in it, considering there were people riding on giant chickens like there were horses. That's a bit strange. I mean, the game starts with, like, a woman made of ice fighting a man that came out of, like, the ground, like a giant that came out of the ground.
There was a monster made of sort of grassy tentacles that came out of the swamp, had to fight that. That's not very realistic for medieval Europe, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that medieval Europe had that many goblin encounters, if I'm quite honest.
I don't think it did.
A couple?
I don't think it did.
Sure. But I don't think the goblins were that organised in real-life medieval times, for fuck's sake. I'd forgotten all about that nonsense when I was playing the demo.
The combat flow was fun, though.
Combat's good. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because I have not gotten on with various modern attempts by Square Enix to modernise Final Fantasy. But this time they really just did, they gave up trying to find some weird hybrid between traditional RPGs and this. They were just like, let's just do an action game, and it's better for it.
I think that it is clearer in its direction. It knows what it wants to be, and it isn't muddying itself by trying to be too many things. Yeah,
just a lot more responsive, a lot more straightforward. I enjoy that. I think there needs to be better telegraphing of, like, enemy attacks, because, like, I was talking about this on the Trash Palace Discord, like, they've put so much luxurious animation in and not done a good job telling you which luxurious animations are attacks and which are openings. The main issue I have, and it's not a massive one, but it does feel a little unfairly punishing, is when I do a perfect dodge, and my instinct is to capitalise on the perfect dodge that's just been telegraphed to me by attacking. I don't expect the enemy to ignore my attack and keep doing its own combo, like nothing I did mattered.
This is why I played that demo with the one of the rings that you can have equipped is the one that will give you a visual on-screen circle and a quick little timer when like you are expected to dodge, because some of those things are not clear and it like doesn't give you much time, but it's a visual thing that goes, oh shit, that's another thing I gotta dodge quick.
Yeah.
Because you are right. The game is not clear enough about what is an attack animation sometimes.
Exactly. And I feel like I'm there playing the game properly, like doing what's the point telling me I did a perfect dodge if there's nothing I can do about it. Because if I try and attack, I'm just being lured into another attack. There was another game recently that did that too. I can't remember what it is. But there was another game where, like, perfect dodges and things didn't stop enemy attacks. Oh, it was that, the one where you play the Plague Doctor, the Souls-like, where you're wearing a plague mask.
Yes. Oh, I forget the name.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but that was another one where I'm like, I did a perfect attack. My instinct is a perfect dodge. My instinct is to capitalize on it, not keep dodging. And it's a little more difficult in this game to tell the difference, to tell where the openings are, because there's so much animation, so many visual effects happening, and so many numbers like happening. Like, it's just so much visual information. But outside of that, I have enjoyed combat a lot. I was actually a little disappointed when the demo was over, which, considering I went into it thinking, God, I better get this done. I'm in the middle of Street Fighter, but I better make time for this. To be disappointed that the demo was over does speak very promisingly for the full game.
I wish I could stop thinking about every single time that Naoki Yoshida has put his foot in his mouth, because it's really distracting. Because the problem is, that game is really hitting the vibes of what I like in a JRPG. I'm digging a lot about this game, but I can't stop playing it going, I'm really noticing how overwhelmingly white everyone is in this world full of people riding chickens, and I can't not think about that.
Yeah.
I just wish you'd shut your mouth, Mr. Sir. Like, stop making me not want to play your game.
It's valid. I mean, we've had it many times before where a creator's involvement, like the fact that they keep running their mouth, will tarnish it. It's the David Cage effect, basically.
It's like, the game itself is fun.
It's
a fun game.
I've enjoyed it, and I know some people have been sort of on the split, I think, 50-50, as to whether the fact that this is basically Final Fantasy does Westeros is a good thing or not. I like it. The fact that it is just being Game of Thrones, I find adorable. The amount of times this game is yelling fuck, I'm like, bless your cotton socks.
You know what the best, the thing that this does so much better than Game of Thrones is in that regard? I really appreciate at any time you can press the the touchpad button on the PlayStation controller to have, hey, the current scene you're in, these are the people in the scene, and this is where you are, and like the groups involved just in this scene, nothing else. Do you want to check who that is?
The active time lore.
Active time lore.
Yeah.
I really like how that system works, where it is not just, here is a compendium of everything the game's ever told you. It's like, no, in this one cutscene, who's that, where are we?
Yeah.
I really like it's like zeroing in on, at this instant, I don't know what something is. I can just look up exactly what that is in a very uncluttered menu. That is such a nice feature.
It's nice that it's there.
So nice. I like it.
I would prefer that the game not do what so many Final Fantasies do and make me feel like I've joined in a conversation halfway through. But I do appreciate that it's there.
I agree, but at least, again, the comparison to, say, Game of Thrones, I'd have had to go pause and look up a wiki to work out what was going on. At least here, it's a button, and instantly it knows what I'm looking for. I'll take it any day.
I like that it's there, and
even if we wish it didn't need to be.
Yeah, I like that it's there, and I'd like many games to have it as a treat. The difference for me is, how necessary it might be. That's the difference between whether I am, really pleased about it being there or if I want to be a bit critical. For the most part, I followed this well enough that having that there as just, extra flavor text is nice. I like that. But the game didn't give me a great first impression with how waffly it was at the beginning. But once it actually found its pacing, I was like, okay, I'm following along, I'm liking this, I'm getting it, it's good. So yeah, I came away from that demo pretty pleased. I would like to sit down the developers and be like, right, can you explain to me? In fact, and I'll give you a full 5 minutes, developers, right? Explain to me what it adds to a game where when I press X to open a door, sometimes but not all the time, I have to hold R2. Tell me what that did to make the game better. in your own time. I just want to... Sometimes there are certain things in games where I want to sit the developers down and be like, explain yourselves. And that one where it's like, some doors are heavy, so you have to hold R2. Okay, does that make the game more fun? Because for me, I get used to pressing X and opening a door. But then I press X, and I don't press R2, and the character, basically, in-universe, just keeps forgetting how to open doors. I don't know what that adds.
It's a heavy door, though. It's a heavy one.
Again, talking about it on the Discord, it was suggested that was like, well, it's an exclusive PS5 game, so it's like maybe some contractual obligation to like force an adaptive trigger command in somewhere. Oh, it makes you feel like you're pushing a heavy door by pulling the trigger and there's a bit of resistance. I'm like, fuck off. Someone
that likes those adaptive triggers, this is not a good use of them.
No, like I hate adaptive triggers anyway, but even if I liked them, like you say, like it's not a good use. It just... Why have you made doors slightly complicated? Just press X to open them all. Not every now and then you have to hold R2 as well. And which you're not going to remember to do. So you're just going to keep having a character who doesn't know how to open doors. I don't know what it adds. Anyway. Solid game. Looks like it will be good. Very good.
We've got a couple of other... we got one other thing we both played, but should we maybe leave that for next week, or do we want to do that now quickly before we do newsy bits?
I haven't played a massive amount.
Neither have I, so
Kid Bandit recommended it to me when I was at the Soft Pro show. They were saying, like, I've played this game and I think it'd be right up your alley. And it looks like it might be, except for the fact I'm playing it on Switch and the performance is stunningly bad.
I also picked it up on Switch, and Switch is not the place to pick it up if you have other choices. It's not unplayable. It's not making... So we're talking about Cassette Beasts.
Yeah.
Neither of us has played very much. I'm really enjoying my first impression of it, but yeah, if you have other options, like if you have a Steam Deck, play it on Steam Deck. The Switch version, like, doesn't perform terribly, but occasionally it'll need a second to catch up with itself, and it's a little jarring.
I've had a worse experience than that.
Oh, yeah?
It is atrocious.
You know it's on Game
like the
Pass,
frame rate.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is on Game Pass as well, I believe.
But it's a game that I want to be sitting playing on a handheld. It's a for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically Pokemon, but with cassette tapes, and you can fuse the Pokemon together and stuff. It's a game I want to play on a handheld, and
I'm enjoying it.
If you have other places to play it, Switch is probably not the one to pick it up on, which is a shame.
Like, I went with the Switch for it because that was the natural choice.
Right.
That's what I thought would be, like, the best thing.
That's the obvious home for this.
But I am stunned because it's not a graphically intensive game.
No,
but
it's
the
not.
Stuttering. Every time I go in the water, it stutters like you would not believe. It's affecting the sound, because that stutters with it, which is a shame.
Yeah, it's doing that thing that emulators sometimes do, where the sound goes weird because the game needed a second to catch up frame rate wise.
Yeah.
That should not be happening on a console game.
Considering, like, one of the biggest selling points of this game is the fucking incredible soundtrack.
Oh,
like, the music is gorgeous. I'm really, like... I'm disappointed that the performance is so bad, because the actual game... Like I said, I played, like, an hour, maybe 2 hours. Promising as hell. Yeah. I am liking what I'm seeing. I'm just not liking how it's running.
I'm gonna play more of it and come back with more in-depth thoughts next week, but, like, my biggest thing is, it's a very promising game. If you've got other options, don't pick it up on Switch.
Yeah.
Like, I would say if Switch is your only choice to play it, so far it feels worth playing, but, like, it should not be your first port of call for it. But yeah, should we talk about some newsy bits quickly before we finish up?
Yeah, let's do
Why
it.
not? So we got some updates about the Activision Blizzard acquisition by Microsoft. Now, the headline that was going around, a lot of people read the headline and assumed it meant more than it did. The FTC files an injunction to temporarily block Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal. Now, you hear that and go, oh, were they standing up like the CMA and going, no, and we don't approve of the deal? Not quite. Basically, the FTC sued to block the deal back in December, basically at the time saying, like, hey, it's going to suppress game industry competition. The hearing for that case isn't going to happen until the 2nd of August, but Microsoft has an 18th of July merger deadline. So basically, the FTC is trying to go, hey, we don't want to let this merger happen until we've had time to do the hearing for us trying to work out whether this is suppressing competition. So the thing here is basically, we don't want that merger to go through on July 18th, to go ahead on July 18th, just because we haven't had time to have our hearing yet.
Which seems pretty reasonable, all things considered. And
right, you would think so.
And yeah, I'm sure that investors have reasons that they think it's very important that this deal go through on July 18th and whatever. Yeah. But sorry? Like, just wait another month. You're gonna probably get what you want. I hate to say it.
Yeah, probably, but I'm glad that the FTC isn't just rolling over and going, well, we didn't do it in time, bad luck us. I'm glad that they're pushing to do this. Basically, the FTC wants additional time to make its decision, which seems like a reasonable thing to want, and they're of the belief that accelerating the legal process, trying to do this too quickly and rush it through, not beneficial to working out whether this is actually in the interests of the market. So we're waiting to see what happens there. We also know that 24th of July, which is like a week and a half away, is when the CMA in the UK is finally going to start presenting its case. So we'll know what's going on there soon. We also have one other big bit of news this week, which is about Embracer Group. You know, those ones we keep hearing about buying up every fucking studio and franchise under the sun recently?
That seems like a sustainable business strategy.
Yeah. Embracer Group has had to announce comprehensive restructuring to close studios and cut jobs. Oh. I know, shocking. So basically, over the last 5 years, they've been buying up a bunch of shit. Reminders, they own Crystal Dynamics, a Gearbox, rights to franchises such as The Lord of the Rings, publishers such as Playon, Saber, THQ Nordic. But while, collecting all this stuff up, they've not made a lot of money back on that yet. As Eurogamer talks about, their big bet last year for there's going to be the big thing that makes us money was the Saints Row reboot, which did not sell well or review terribly well.
Yeah, it was not that good.
Yeah, but the bigger problem is that a major unannounced $2 billion deal fell through recently, prompting its shares to plummet by an eye-watering 40%. So the situation here from, reading a bunch of people who are, investors talking about the situation is, investors were led to believe that this was a done deal, signed paperwork, everything was done. And that the reason why they were making some of the acquisitions they were currently making is because this $2 billion coming in was a done deal. And they continued buying up studios and properties, and then that $2 billion didn't show up, and now they're kind of in trouble because they kind of needed that $2 billion. So, the first phase of their plan, which will last until March of next year, will involve cost savings across the group, which will cut employees from across their various studios. We don't know how many staff or from where, so over the next 10 months, people who work at places owned by Embracer are just going to have to sit and go, is it me? Am I going to be cut? I don't know. Sometime before March I might be. Crystal Dynamics has apparently said that they are safe from the cuts. In a statement released via Twitter, they said there would be no impact on our continuing efforts with our partners at the initiative on Perfect Dark or the next Tomb Raider title. So, I'm glad that Crystal Dynamics got told they're not going to see any staff cuts, but that sucks for any studios that didn't get told, no, don't worry, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a generally kind of shitty situation.
There should be a rule that you're not allowed to, buy any more companies if you've had layoffs. Like, there needs to be a period of time after layoffs where they're like, well, you didn't have enough money for the staff you have. Why are you buying more companies?
Yeah.
Like, there should be something.
Reading from Eurogamer, and I think this sums it up, in general, it sounds like Embracer will move from a company focused on acquisitions to one which is trying to make the most of its current studios and franchises. Which, yeah, that's what a studio really should be, doing stuff with the things you have. Their quote, actions will include, but not be limited to, closing or divesting some of the studios and termination or pausing of some ongoing game development projects. It will also include decreased spending on non-development costs, such as overhead and other operating expenses. We will reduce third-party publishing and put greater focus on internal IP and increase external funding of large-budget games. So they're going to make a few big things and cancel small stuff they were doing and just make the things they're already making and not buy more things. We have at least one bit of a plan of how they plan to dig themselves out of this. It involves the word exploiting, which is a bad start. Here is a quote from who is it at Embracer? Do we know? One sec. Embracer's newly promoted interim executive, Matthew Karsh, gave the quote, "We know we need to be exploiting Lord of the Rings," in a very significant fashion.
It always creeps me out that after all these years, like, corpos have not worked out that, like, there's negative connotations associated with the word exploit. That they still think it's fine. It's not a bad look for them to use it. Creepy.
Yeah, apparently, like, his big plan is that they own the rights to the Lord of the Rings, so they need to prioritize pumping out Lord of the Rings projects instead of other things that aren't Lord of the Rings.
Well, they got to get a wriggle on before it goes public domain, didn't they?
I was going to say, that feels like a wild bet to be making when the thing fresh in everyone's minds is,
Gollum.
Oh, Lord of the Rings video games are shit, right? Like, everyone's mind goes, Lord of the Rings video games, that's a bit shit. Like, that's a connection right now. Why would you go all in on hoping that people forget about that?
What we need. That's what he's thinking. What we need is Gollum too. I keep seeing people talk about it on Twitter. I just keep seeing Gollum get mentioned. It's in the
It's in the zeitgeist.
Like, it's in every related search suggestion. Let's go for it. Let's Gollum too. Have you actually read any of it, Clive? What? What's reading?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got one last story for us all this week. You know when Mass Effect was coming out, the original Mass Effect trilogy, Commander Shepard is the protagonist, right?
I know this story.
Famously, there was, like, no fucking merch for FemShep. If you liked, the female Commander Shepard was your Commander Shepard, there was never any fucking merch that depicted her. There was, like, one trailer for Mass Effect 2 that she was in, but, like, it's very hard to find any good FemShep merchandise.
You would say
FemShep
rep?
Right, there's very little FemShep rep. But Bioware steps in and goes, you know what, it's time to finally fix this. Let's make a really nice collectible FemShep figure, Let's really do something about the fact that she's being, like, completely undervalued in the merch realm.
Show the level of respect and dignity we always meant to afford her as a character. No, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they announced the dead FemShep statue, in which she is lying, legs sort of floating apart, lying on her back in space, dead. Just a dead floating space corpse with a leg sort of floating open a bit.
It was a bit of a FemShep rep misstep, really.
Yeah, a little bit. The statue was priced at $135, and only 2,000 were going to be made.
Depending on the size of that statue, that's really cheap.
I don't know about size. I'm looking for size, but I can't see it said anywhere.
Like $135 for that, it's gotta be crap.
Yeah. People pointed out, I think rightly, that it's a bit of a blow to have one of the few bits of FemShep rep that's out there be dead FemShep, but specifically, like, The design is definitely a bit of a sexualized, fetishized dead body design. Like, she's very arched back, tits out. It's not a statue I wouldn't have seen them do this with FemShep, I don't think. So...
Basically, when I'm in the front garden eating chicken, trying to attract, like, the attention of, like, local men, for courting purposes, that's how I sit on my Lilo.
I mean, yeah, look, if this was FemShep on a Lilo, I'd be like, yeah, that's a fitting pose.
She's
for
on
that,
a
I
Lilo,
guess.
eating chicken, wearing Parappa the Rapper shorts, then absolutely, yes. I'd be like, she's not dead. She's trying to attract, like, the attention of the local menfolk. We all do it. But there's no chicken, there's no Lilo, there's no shorts.
My favourite part of this, a press release for the statue reportedly stated it was intended to be a conversation starter.
I love it when they do that.
It sure did start a conversation.
When they say conversation starter, what they meant was we wanted to be controversial for attention. No, not like that.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's we wanted to be controversial, but we forgot what happens when we're controversial.
See, when they say things like that, it's like, for me, they wanted the conversation to be, oh, that's a cool statue. Yeah, that looks great there.
They wanted it to be a conversation starter in your home.
Right.
They wanted people to go, oh, that's an unusual statue you have. What's that? Oh, that's your dead lady statue.
Yeah, that's a corpse. That's a space corpse.
We did it. We're done. We've done a show.
We done a show. Well,
Done one.
FemShep might be dead floating in space, but I tell you what's very much alive. Your calendar, Laura, full of events and tasks and works, the results of which can be viewed far and wide, and I'm sure the audience would love to know about them.
I mean, the big one right now, hey, if you haven't watched it already, go to youtube.com/LauraKBuzz and check out the Accessibility Summer Showcase. It's available in American Sign Language, British Sign Language, audio described. Go check it out. I'm gonna be in some places this month. On the Saturday the 24th of June, I'm gonna be at the Common Press in London. Keep an eye out for details about that. On Sunday the 25th, if you happen to be in Oslo, in Norway, I'm going to be doing a talk at Oslo Pride. Other than that, Laura K. Buzz everywhere. Just search Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, all the places. Patreon's the one that pays the bills. Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the stuff I do. Go check it out. What about you, Conrad?
You can find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Twitter and Instagram. You can hang out with me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and official Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com, and everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? James Stephanie Sterling.
Hello, that is true. You can see that Patreon at patreon.com/Jimquisition, which supports this podcast and my videos, of course, all of that good stuff, and the video game reviews. Latest review is Amnesia the Bunker on thejimquisition.com. I'll be having reviews of Cassette Beasts and Street Fighter 6 coming out in the near future as well. I also stream as and when, any semblance of a schedule's gone out the window at this point, so it's as and when right now. Twitch TV/Jim Sterling. My current wrestling dates are June 29th. I am in London. That's my big London debut. I will be with a company called Fist Club. Ticket details are on outsavvy.com. I've sort of linked to it everywhere. But if you just Google for it, that's June 29th, London. I will be appearing with Fist Club. Other confirmed dates currently are July 8th in New York. That's True Grit Wrestling. July 9th in the Head Bar in Manchester. That's an evening with Commander Sterling. I've been getting the dates wrong this whole fucking time, by the way. These are the right ones. And then August 26th, the biggest match of my career. If you've seen the poster for it, you might be able to guess what the match actually is. But it is another True Grit event. That's in Leeds, August 26th. All the True Grit bookings and info can be found at True Grit Wrestle on Twitter, or just Google True Grit Wrestling. if you can make it to any one of my shows and you can get to Leeds on August 26th, that may very well be the show to watch. And that's that. Thank you all so much for everyone who's listened, supported, everyone who came out this past weekend to see me perform. Thank you for everything. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.